Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Wednesday, the 23rd day of the month of October, 2024, Wednesday of the 29th week of the year, the 29th week in Ordinary Time. And again, as morning continues to break here, the campus of St. Francis of Assisi, our Franciscan school is getting ready to celebrate Wednesday Mass together as a community. And so our church is right over here like this. Today is also, it's important to note, is also the memorial of St. John of Capistrano. The swallows returning to the mission in California, all that stuff. John of Capistrano is one of the pillars of the observant movement. It's important to realize he is there with Bernardine of Siena, Albert of Sartiano, and James of the Marches. What is the observant movement? Well, that's me. So we were the ones who basically believed that we were observing the rule properly and in the most effective and true manner, as opposed to wanting to become more like Benedictines, which is sometimes where they say the conventual friars, so another branch of the order went. To continue with the observant idea and the observant focus of trying to live as well as we could by the rule that St. Francis had established gives rise to the observance, and so that's us. We continue to fracture, and it is from us also that the Capuchin Franciscans will also descend because we weren't observing it strictly enough. So it goes all over the place sometimes, and then we break ourselves up into different little groups to just because it was a matter of where you wear the cord, how you wear the cord, all kinds of whether or not you wear sandals or not wear sandals, all kinds of things that get in the way of doing what it is that Francis was trying to do, again in bringing the gospel to people in a way that they could understand it and experience God's love. So again, divisions among this community dedicated to being instruments of peace, which is why when we sing that song, which is not from St. Francis himself, again, to be channels of God's peace is a very difficult thing to do, and we need to be conscious of that always and not let our own human agendas or our human designs or human desires get in the way of that. So we're remembering John of Capistrano today. He lived during the bubonic plague in the 1400s. He again was very good at trying to in some ways deal with some of the divisions. He was not always a nice man. Again, he was not good at dealing with those who differed. So those who wanted to be more conventual, again, were sometimes chased down, attacked, and beaten up. John Capistrano seems to fall guilty as to being one of those kinds of people who did that. The other sad thing is that he preaches a crusade against the Muslim people because, again, the Muslim armies were beginning to invade more and more into Eastern Europe and into, again, Hungary and what was going to be the Austrian Empire and things like that. So he preaches a crusade and then actually goes into battle against the Muslim people. So again, a human being of his time doing what human beings of his time did. Was he trying to seek for more? Was he trying to look for more? Maybe not very successful at times. But he is somebody who continued to make the fervor of what it meant to live the rule of St. Francis into something that was possible, and not to necessarily be tampered with or changed by desires to live as every other religious community was living in his time. So special readings for him. If we have a Franciscan lectionary, we don't. We do, but we're not going to use it. So the readings for today, the letter to the Ephesians continues. Basically, the point of this part of the letter is that, again, the message of Christ is for both Jews and non-Jews, Jews and Gentiles. It is not just something that is for special people, for a special group, a select class or what have you. The understanding of the gospel always is that if it isn't given to all people of any kind of shape or stock or whatever it is, then it is not gospel. It is not a private message, a private lesson. It is something that helps to make human life flourish, and allows us in our human lives to experience the more of who and what we are and this creation in which we live. That is what the gospel offers us, and that is what Paul is impressing upon the Ephesians. They may not have had as large a Jewish community in that city as they did in Galatia, and so there is a sense of who is this Jesus and what is he supposed to be doing with us, who are worshiping Artemis and quite content with that. Paul's aim is always to show that there is something more than just gods and goddesses in this world, and there is something more than basically being enslaved to gods and goddesses. Our own worth and our own dignity is what matters, and Paul is impressing that upon the Ephesians today. In the gospel, we continue the work of being vigilant for Christ's return, to know that the master is going to come back, and to be vigilant at that. Again, if we get lazy and we start to basically just not do what we're supposed to do as vigilant people, well, things are going to go awry and we're going to forget. And again, something that's really kind of where we are at today in one way. We tend to forget that Christ is coming, or if we believe that Christ is coming, we think it is in some kind of destructive rage that's going to destroy everything rather than fulfill everything. And so we've got to get reacquainted with what it means to wait for Christ and to be ever vigilant that Christ will come and come again to be the one who does fulfill God's promises among us. Jesus in Luke goes off a little bit about how those who do not prepare in the right way or aren't vigilant in the right way will be beaten, and those who did not know to be vigilant but still did bad things will be beaten just a little bit. And again, nobody wants to be beaten. Nobody wants to be beaten, but Jesus is trying to make this point again to people who are not listening to the fact that, again, there is this God who is going to make things new, this God who is going to take what is and make it better, this God who wants us to focus upon what it is this God wants us to do and how this God wants us to live and act, rather than upon rules and regulations that in the end don't do enough for us. That is where we are focused sometimes, in the rules and the regulations, and doing all the little tits and tattles that basically don't really allow for us to live as we should and live as we ought. To live in God's grace, to live in God's Spirit, is to live always expecting God's fulfillment and God's return. A blessed day, St. Francis and people of God. May the Lord give you his peace.